celebrities who might still be alive. Hey everyone, it's Alexa, and welcome back to Titanic. The world remembers when these celebrities passed, but some people out there say these celebrities might still be alive. Let the conspiracy theories commence. Before we get into it, make sure that you're subscribed and ring the bell so that you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Tupac. Many consider Tupac one of the greatest hip-hop artists of all time. Here's a little background information on this music legend. For his last 2 years of high school, Tupac Shakur transferred to the Baltimore School for the Arts. There, he studied poetry, jazz, acting, and ballet. In 1988, the East Harlem native moved to California and thus began his rise to fame. By 1996, he released 4 studio albums and also had a notable acting career. Later that year, he was in Las Vegas celebrating his friend's birthday. Shakur was later shot after leaving the MGM in a sedan with Suge Knight following the Mike Tyson vs. Bruce Seldon fight. Since then, conspiracy theories cropped up around not only his death, but his possible survival. Knight himself has said that he doesn't believe Shakur really died that night. If Tupac were alive today, he'd be nearly 50 years old. Some fans claim to have spotted him on the street in various cities, but the prevailing theory is that he's living peacefully somewhere in Australia or Cuba. Jim Morrison. Up next is the Lizard King, Jim Morrison. The frontman of The Doors was a singer and poet. Not only were his songwriting abilities exceptional, he also had a very distinct voice. Rolling Stone listed him as number 47 on the 100 Greatest Singers of All Time list. Morrison passed away in 1971. He was buried at the Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, alongside pop culture figures that included French cabaret Edith Piaf and Irish writer Oscar Wilde, among many more. It is one of the most visited attractions in Paris. Morrison was only 27 years old when he died, and not everyone is convinced he's truly gone. His funeral was reportedly very private, and not many were invited. Fans thought that this was suspicious, as an autopsy was never conducted. Some think he faked his death, and that Morrison is alive and well, living on a ranch in Oregon. A video of a homeless man resurfaced with the person who posted it claiming they actually found Jim Morrison. JonBenet Ramsey. This one is a bit different from our previous subjects, but is just as bizarre, if not more bizarre. For those of you who don't know, the case of JonBenet Ramsey dates back to 1996, and it involved the mysterious circumstances around the end of Ramsey's life. Ramsey was a young child who was also raised to be a beauty pageant queen. Her body was found in the basement of her family's home in 1996. Authorities still don't know who committed the crime, and it's a cold case that has haunted American society for over 20 years. However, a few conspiracy theorists think that they have the answer. They say that Ramsey never died, but instead grew up to be Katy Perry. Perry is the same age, after all. She and Ramsey share the same face shape, smile, and eye color. The theory probably stemmed from one of the lines in Perry's memoir where she wrote, "Not that I was one of those stage kids. There was no JonBenet Ramsey inside of me waiting to burst out. Or was there?" Hitler. Austrian native German politician and leader of the Nazi Party, Adolf Hitler, moved to Germany in 1913. In the coming decades, he rose to incredible political power, ultimately helping bring on one of the most devastating events in the world, World War II. In 1945, when it was clear he was going to lose, Hitler took his own life. His wife, Eva Braun, did the same. Of course, if everyone believed that, this topic wouldn't be on this list. According to conspiracy theories, the two escaped from Europe. If he were still alive, he would be over 120 years old, so he's probably not. However, that doesn't mean he didn't escape. One explanation is that he and his wife eventually had 2 daughters and lived the remainder of their life as a family in Argentina. Heath Ledger. The world was shocked to hear about the passing of actor Heath Ledger. Ledger was only 28 years old. Despite his young age, he had already been working in Hollywood for a long time, earning him the status of a household name. The Australian actor had just finished filming The Dark Knight in 2008 and was in the middle of filming The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which was due to be released the following year. Millions mourned the loss of this talented actor, so it's no wonder that people are still hoping he's alive. A few of his fans say he is still alive and that all he wanted was to stop acting and take time for himself. Additionally, the wild claims state he's now residing in Hawaii. James Dean. When he was alive, James Dean was pretty famous, though one could argue that he became even more so after his death. James Dean was only in 8 movies and appeared in more TV shows than most people might have realized. Dean's passing was due to a car accident in 1955 when he was driving himself and a friend on their way to a racing event in California. People are convinced, however, that he faked his passing. The media portrayed Dean as a brooding rebel, so it didn't take much for people to believe that he wanted to escape the spotlight. Dean supposedly moved to Canada to live the rest of his life after the staged accident, and he only passed away last year. Paul Walker. He is most famous for his roles as Brian O'Connor in the Fast and the Furious franchise, but Walker has an extensive filmography beyond those movies. He got his start as a guest star on The Young and the Restless, and then moved on to teen films in the late 90s. He rose to more prominence after the first Fast and Furious film and starred in the next 6 installments. He passed away in the middle of filming Furious 7. Walker's passing happened after a car accident. Walker was in the passenger seat. His friend and financial advisor, Roger Rodas, was driving. Those skeptical of his passing think it was all a publicity stunt to revive the Fast and Furious franchise. Kurt Cobain. Cobain was 27 years old when he took his own life at his home in Lake Washington Boulevard, Seattle. Recently, a video of Peruvian musician Ramiro Saavedra doing a cover of Nirvana's Come As You Are caused a stir amongst Nirvana fans. The video, recorded in 2012, shows Saavedra sporting similar shoulder-length, dirty blonde hair and similar clothing to the late musician's style. Those who listened to the cover swear Saavedra sounds just like Cobain. In response to Cobain possibly still living, Nirvana's Facebook team responded by saying that it's true, Kurt was alive. They joked that he needed time to learn to play the guitar with his right hand, since this is how Saavedra is playing guitar in the video. People, of course, were outraged that they would even joke about this. A lot of Cobain fans are of the widespread belief that his passing was just a ruse to flee from his then-wife, Courtney Love. On a similar note, if Cobain is gone, some accuse Love of being the one who got rid of him. Biggie Smalls. Christopher George Wallace, better known as Biggie Smalls or the Notorious B.I.G, passed away in 1997 at the age of 24. Born and raised in Brooklyn, Wallace was one of the most significant figures in East Coast rap. He rose to prominence in the early 90s, striking it big with remixes of songs, collaborations, and of course his solo tracks. You might have heard he often feuded with his rival Tupac Shakur. Wallace was even accused of involvement with the mystery of Tupac's passing. Wallace was shot and passed away just 6 months after Shakur did. However, people also think that both of them faked their shootings and ran away together to get away from all the media attention. In 2018, it was claimed that the two were living in luxury together in Somalia. David Bowie. David Bowie seemed like the kind of person who would live forever, which is probably why so many people still think he's around. He began his career as a musician in 1962 and was working up until his death in 2016. Along with creating music, Bowie also acted, painted, and was an art collector. It seemed he made the most of his 69 years on this planet. Ever since his passing 3 years ago, millions of his fans aren't convinced he's gone. Hundreds of witnesses have come forward saying they've spotted Bowie alive and well walking about in public. Many don't think there's enough evidence that shows he's dead. A video uploaded to YouTube titled "David Bowie Alive? Shocking Proof" garnered millions of views and thousands of comments. Later in 2016, a man named Jack Stevens appeared on Sky News. Many noted how he looks and sounds a lot like Bowie and then accused Stevens of actually being Bowie. Princess Diana. Speaking of royalty, up next is Princess Di. She was not only a beautiful princess, but she was also a prominent humanitarian. Her full name is Diana Frances Spencer. When she was married to Prince Charles in 1981, she became Diana, Princess of Wales. By 1996, Charles and Diana divorced, but that separation didn't do much to lessen her popularity. A year later, she passed away after a car accident in a Paris tunnel. Diana was more than just fashionable and well-liked. She hung around other celebrities. Here's her dancing with John Travolta at the White House. Can you get more celebrity than that? The paparazzi were notorious for following Diana closely, watching her every move. It's believed she faked the accident so that she could recede from the public eye and live a peaceful life. It sounds like a pretty common theme on this list. Gossip arose again after Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding, with many saying you can spot her in the crowd watching. Elvis. From a princess to a king. Elvis Presley was wasn't born royalty, but he cemented himself as the king of rock and roll. Elvis moved to Memphis, Tennessee when he was 13 years old. He began recording music just a few years later, landing a record deal and soon becoming a musical pioneer. Elvis passed away at 42 years old. His then-girlfriend, Ginger Alden, was the one who discovered him in his non-responsive state. Explanations of the cause of his death kept changing, making fans suspicious of both what happened and if anything happened. Those who attended his funeral swear that they saw him sweating in his casket. Over a decade later, lots of witnesses said they saw him living in Kalamazoo, Michigan. But who is at number 1? Before we reveal it to you, we have a question to ask. If you were a wealthy celebrity, would you stage a disappearance to get away from all the fame? And if you would, how would you do it? Let us know in the comments below. Michael Jackson. We talked about the king of rock and roll, but at number 1 is the king of pop. The media intensely scrutinized Michael Jackson when he was alive, especially in his last years. Whatever you choose to believe about Jackson, what's undeniable is his influence on music, dancing, and Hollywood in general. Jackson passed away in 2009 after taking an array of medications to induce sleep. He was rushed to the hospital when he wouldn't wake up, but nothing could be done. One doctor said Jackson was still alive upon arriving at the hospital, despite the official reports stating otherwise. People reportedly spotted Jackson attending his own funeral. In May of 2016, his daughter Paris Jackson posted a selfie. Fans point out that you can see a vague shape beside her that's possibly her father. When he was alive, Jackson's net worth reached $350 million. Posthumously, his net worth as of the past year is over $2 billion. What do you think? Is Jackson rich enough to stage such an historical event?